Attention, please.
Give him a heater.
Now listening to
Clear the Mechanism.
The Robbie Rose Show. The Robbie Rose Show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Robbie Rowland here on The Robbie Rose Show. You are listening to episode 82. So here's the deal. It's going to be a little different format, a little different setup on this particular episode, just because I was on the House of Velo podcast with Christopher Corper. I honestly forgot how to pronounce his name, but I was on his show. We had an awesome time. It was funny. I was like, yo, I got 30 minutes. Like, let's hammer this out. We ended up going for like an hour and a half. But, you know, I wanted to throw this on my podcast because, you know, I've kind of gotten away from talking about like my personal experiences and my personal journey throughout this game and throughout life. And, you know, when I go on other people's shows, it's an outlet for me to talk about that. And I'm not saying that I want to put it on my show because I want you guys to hear about me, but there's a lot of things that I went through. I learned, you know, the cliche of, you know, going through the hard times, or insert whatever phrase you want here. But like I mentioned in this podcast episode, is like, you know, this is the foundation for the Robbie Rose Show, right? This is, you know, I talk a lot about having a foundation, having a why behind everything you do, you know, understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And not just the Robbie Rose Show as in like the podcast, but literally my whole entire brand, you know, my Instagram, my website, my pod, YouTube, all of this stuff. Like, the reason that I tell people that it's not going to fizzle out and I'm going to continue to do it, I'm going to continue to evolve, is because my foundation for it is so strong. In the fact that I have this sense of responsibility, I think, having gone through what I went through, you know, being drafted at 18, experiencing failure for the first time, not knowing how to deal with it, and then learning about myself throughout that process and throughout that struggle. And like I said, this is just an episode. It starts off kind of goofy, like we're just joking around, you know, just being dudes. And then we dive into some really legit, you know, topics, and I think it's super appropriate to throw it on my show. But you know, I encourage my listeners to go check the House of Velo podcast out. Check out what he's got going on. Just an awesome dude. You know, him and I, like, this was our first time actually talking in person. And not in person, but over the you know, the Google machine, and just an awesome dude. I hope to do more work with him in the future. But I'll link everything in the show notes as far as, you know, stuff that we talk about, where you can find him, and you know, as always, some discounts on some services that I provide. My pitch grip analysis ebook is now live. You can go check that out. The show notes for this episode will be found at therobbieroseshow.com/082. So make sure to go check that out. Again, therobbieroseshow.com/082 will have the show notes. Everything that needs to be found can be found there. And I encourage you guys, if you're someone that, you know, you're listening to this episode and you're like, crap, this stuff really hits home to me, and you want to further dive into this topic, like, or whatever topic it is, that's honestly the reason why I have, you know, consultation services and whatnot. So let's get to the episode. I appreciate you guys. Love you. Hope you enjoy. Looking at vans in my area because I was going to sell my like new car and just straight up like live in this van. I'm not kidding, man. Like I long for that for some reason. Like, something's calling me to do that, and it's going to happen eventually. But right now, like, I need Wi-Fi. And I need a big computer.
Hey, you know what? There's some pretty gnarly van setups out there. I'm sure you could find something where you could do that Wi-Fi.
Yeah, those are expensive, man. I checked them out. Like, a couple of the guys in the professional baseball ranks have like legitimate vans. But then you look inside of it, and this isn't like disrespecting those types of people, but you look inside some of those vans, and it's like, man, that's not van life. You know what I mean? Like
It's like staring at it's like being at a mobile Marriott.
dude, it's like you have a 5-star in your van, you know, like you got like this Tempur-Pedic bed, you got like a stove, microwave that has Siri on it, so you just say, Siri, make me a baked potato, and it happens. I'm thinking like I'm buying
what?
like Siri operated everything. Siri, start my car.
So you're going to be more on the legitimate van life train.
Oh, dude. So I'm going like Vanagon 1983 diced. What are they called? Diced balls, like hanging from the rear view mirror with like fuzzy carpet, and I don't know what else that I could include in that would make me #groovy, but that's where I'm headed with it. That's the mindset. Now, it might not come into fruition like exactly that, but as long as I have a plan of attack, I think that's 73% of the battle, right? Should we hit record? Like, I feel like we're taking too much time. Oh, we're recording?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Did I say anything stupid?
No.
You're like, hey, Robbie, the whole call's been stupid, man. Come on, let's start over.
No, I started when we started talking about vans because I was like, dude, we're going to have some gold here that I'm going to wish I was recording. You can't just.
I do that all the time. Like, I feel like with all my podcasts, I'll literally talk. We'll just hang out for like 30 minutes beforehand. And then we'll be like, oh, I guess we should hit record, right?
And you're like, dang it. Yeah. Now, the question I have, though, is would you rather, if you had one instrument, okay, here's the question. Not a would you rather, but just if you could take one instrument with you, you want a would you rather? I can do that. Let's do that.
No, I'm just, yeah, okay, go for it.
Let's do it. Okay, we'll go. Would you rather, you have one instrument, would you rather have a ukulele, okay, or a harmonica?
So for the longest time, I thought it was hookah-lele, but hookah is its own separate thing, and yucca is its own separate thing.
Well, here's the thing: you might be able to find that.
Dude, that's what I was going to say. Was like I may have just struck gold, but now it's like, see, this is the bad thing about recording already. Is like now everybody knows it. So whoever has the patenting,
we'll cut it out. We'll cut it out.
Or what was the other one? Harmonica.
Yeah, harmonica.
The better question is, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of harmonica? For me, it is Phil Collins.
There you go.
I don't know why I just asked that, but back to the question.
Huckleberry Finn comes to my mind.
That's fantastic. I wish my middle name was Huckleberry. Okay, so ukulele or harmonica? Well, for me, it's a ukulele because I know how to play it.
There you go.
Yeah.
What other instruments do you play?
In my mind, or like actually physically play them?
Start with physical and then the ones in your mind.
Oh, well, physically, I play none, including the ukulele. But mentally, I play them all, including the ukulele.
Nice.
I'm like, I need, so, all right. 2016, I had bone spurs in my elbow, got them removed. I was going to miss like 3 or 4 months, right? And it was at the beginning of big league camp. It sucked, bad timing or whatever. But like me being just a complete optimist, I was like, you know what, dude? Like, this is my time. This is when I'm going to learn how to play the guitar. And then I identified that me as an individual, I struggle really greatly with things that I don't pick up naturally. Right. So like things I have to like completely grind with to grasp like concepts. Because like we can sit here and like talk about growth mindset all you want. Like I'm 100% on board, but it was just a physical grind and a mental grind, more so mental grind for me. Because I spent like a week like doing the instruction videos, like, okay, C, D, E, minor, major, independent ball, like all these like different strings that they have named. and then I was like thinking like, okay, I'm trying to like heal physically. So if I'm trying to heal physically, but I'm putting my mental state through absolute stress and torture of learning how to play guitar, probably not doing my baseball career any favors. So I had to shut her down. But when I get my van, I'm gonna have a few instruments in there. Because I mean, can't you just picture that though? Like me with a huge beard, potentially in a beard bun, just rocking out by a campfire that's unsupervised and potentially dangerous, just picking a guitar. Oh, that's hashtag goals, man. With a poncho. Man, I just rambled. What was the question?
No, that's that. Now I'm just like putting myself there, and I can't come back. You know,
dude. That's what I do in the morning. So I have like this visualization hour. It's usually supposed to be like 10 minutes, but like I sit here and I try to like visualize, whatever. You can literally visualize whatever in this world, and that's like my sweet spot. So Happy Gilmore, remember the happy place thing? And like how it got him to like center his chi and like learn and like feel happy and do better. That's me. Like campfire, maybe so campfire, optional s'mores, but like mandatory guitar, mandatory sweats that have been cut like Capri styles. I don't know why, but if they're cut Capri styles, then it shows like my wool socks. So I think that's why. But then like beard bun, beanie, poncho, but like the red, black texture. So it almost looks like a flannel from afar. And then you just have like this hatchet on one side and then this axe on the other. And you're like, well, the fire's getting low. I need to cut a tree down with my bare hands and then put it in the fire. I don't know. Okay. Hey, welcome everybody to the show. This is my friend. Oh my gosh. All right, let's talk about spirit animals. What is it? I need to know.
Okay. Let's so in my understanding, a spirit animal is an animal that shows up in your life, whether it's like in digital form, you see it a lot, or you see it in real life a lot. It's pretty hippie stuff, but
I love it.
Yeah, and you're like that. It's your essence, like that is what you are in animal form.
Is this like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers right here?
I don't know, man. I mean, it could be a lot of different things, but
did you watch Power Rangers growing up?
Of course I did. I think. How old are you?
Do you remember that? I'm like 15, or physically or mentally.
That's also a very good thing to define. Yeah, I feel like I'm probably 17.
Yeah, you'd go 17. That was a good year for me. No, that was a bad year for me. What year was that? I'm 27, I guess.
Okay.
Like compared to my or just going off my birth certificate, 27. How old are you?
I'm 31. 31.
Oh yeah, so we have the same. Probably grew up with the same stuff.
Power Rangers, legit. Ed, and Eddie,
fantastic.
Gosh. Tons
Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo was like earlier, but for some reason I loved it.
Yep. Back to the Future.
Oh yeah. Hey, did you see the new Avengers movie?
Of course I did.
Yeah, I mean, like like we wouldn't be talking right now if you didn't. I love the Back to the Future reference in that.
It was hilarious. I was like, this is so well played.
Coming from Paul Rudd, it just made it that much funnier.
I got to go see that movie again. It was.
I did. I've seen it 13 times. Yeah, it's weird.
1-3.
So that's maybe something you don't know about me. I'm like a huge comic book nerd.
Nice.
Yeah. Along with being a hippie, along with being a baseball player, podcaster. I have like 33 identities.
That's great. That's great. Have you found that baseball players, and this is my argument, okay?
Okay.
I think that out of all athletes, baseball players are the best conversationalists. Because here's why. Because the game requires it. The practices require it.
Dude, it's freaking mandatory. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the amount of if I was mic'd up throughout my whole baseball career and I split it into episodes, I mean, the amount of randomness and hilarity that you'd find in those episodes would just be unlimited. Because
yeah.
We would talk about everything from like nuclear warfare to like dark matter and space and what that was all like. It was pretty much
black holes, aliens.
It's like Joe Rogan's podcast on steroids, man.
Bro, well, coming from a guy that actually has spent the last 3 calendar years mic'd up. It's really good footage, actually. Yeah, I'm running out of my 700 billion terabyte hard drive though, so I might need to purchase a new one. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because and that's a great point too, because like it's literally required. It's mandatory. Like think about all the time we spend together. No one wants to be like alone in their mind, I guess, for that long. So I legitimately got my first taste of the reality of that when I first went to the bullpen. So I got drafted as a starter, like was a pretty high pick. So like I was a starter for a long period of time. And it wasn't until 2014, maybe 15, that I first made like the move to the bullpen. And that was where I like reality struck, like, holy smokes, because you dive into topics, dude, and like 7 innings go by and you're like, whoa, Roland, get hot. What? Like I'm on a spaceship right now in another galaxy with like a freaking pack of Skittles, because obviously you have like the argument of what's the greatest candy of all time. And then you're all of a sudden on the bullpen mound, like having to worry about pitching. But that's what makes it beautiful. You know?
Oh man. Well, and then batting practice is hilarious too, because it's almost like the African safari where there's congregations occurring of different guys, you know, and it's like you kind of go from one to the other, and you kind of want to drop in a great comment to get things started, or you know, and it's hilarious.
I'm the rover, dude. I'm like the rover, because it's so fascinating. This goes beyond baseball though. This is like people in general. Like every person, every human being is like different in their own like beautiful sense of the word. And they all have different thoughts. They all have different perception. You know, like something that I'm perceiving could be totally different than what you're perceiving. But like, I want to know what you're perceiving, right? Like, so that's what's so cool about like the diversity of ball players too, or just diversity of human beings in general. And that's a legitimate reason why, like, I started my podcast, was like, I want to just talk to other people, and I want to network, and I just want to see, like, what are you guys thinking? What are you like? What are you passionate about? Like, I just think that's so fascinating. That's kind of like really diving into my hippie side. But yeah, no, I agree. Like, and that was actually when you, I mean, you know, I was like, when you have a podcast, you have to like write a description on the hosting platform, and my description was legitimately like bringing to life BP conversations. And then I quickly realized, like, I was having people on my show that didn't know what BP was or didn't know what batting practice was. Like, I wasn't having just baseball players on. So I was like, I got to change that. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's fantastic. I love it. I mean,
yeah, that description would resonate with any baseball player right away. They know exactly what that.
Well, dude, that's my introduction to like when people come on and they're like, okay, what do I, you know, what should I expect? I literally say like, hey, we're in the outfield. We have 45 minutes of shagging, and we're going to talk, and let's see where it takes us. We're gonna dive down rabbit holes, and we're gonna hold our breath for as long as we can and see what happens. That's literally what I say. It's fantastic.
That's so good. Oh man. So
what do you want to talk about?
yeah. I mean, this is kind of at this point, I've got so many thoughts and ideas.
I know we're gonna need a whole day.
Yeah. So, well, I guess for editing's sake, what I'll do right now is I'll just welcome you to the show, and then we'll just dive in.
Yeah, throw that in the beginning.
I'll probably go back. I'm gonna go grab some of that randomness and just kind of do like maybe a post combo, like highlight of randomness. That'd be so funny.
Just a blooper reel, and it's like it's longer. So the podcast is like 7 minutes, and like the blooper reel is like 48 minutes.
way more entertaining.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to listen to the podcast.
Okay. Robbie Rowe, welcome to the House of Velo Radio.
Dude, that just sounds right, doesn't it? Like,
and righteous at the same time.
so righteous. That's what I have tattooed in the middle of my forehead, actually. Righteous, but it's spelled wrong. Hey, dude, thank you. In all seriousness, man, thank you for inviting me to the House of Velo Radio. Fantastic name. Secondly, I haven't said this yet, but dude, you have like, this is in the most weird sense of the phrase. I don't care how you take it, but you have like a really cool voice. Have you been told that before? You know what?
So this is with all clarity. I'm very new at the podcasting game, right? Yeah. This will be episode 6.
Yeah.
And a couple people have told me that. So I appreciate that very much.
Dude, it just makes like, so it's literally the voice of a podcaster. I don't know if that's even a thing, but like if I tune on like a legitimately like a podcast, like a well-known podcast, I feel like this is the type of voice I were to expect.
Well, right back at you, man. It makes conversing a lot more fun and exciting. And unfortunately I'm sitting down right now, but I want to be walking around, my house and in the backyard, just getting super excited about everything we're talking about. So
I feel like we should be earthing right now.
Dude, I go on and on about earthing. So I have a 17-month-old son.
Oh, congrats.
He's a stud, man. And my wife, Janelle, is incredible. But I'm like, Janelle, you've got to make sure that he's got some grounding time on a daily basis. We got to make sure that this kid is barefoot on the dirt, on the grass, connecting so that he can develop to his fullest potential. And she's like, you are such a hippie.
Circadian rhythmicity, man. That's life right there, dude. Telling you.
It really is. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna kick this off. I got a question. It's a would you rather.
Kick it off, man.
Okay. Would you rather have to eat the same meal for the rest of your life? And it could be the most ornate, incredible meal, right? So you've got that as a constant. And then on the flip side, you can listen to whatever music you want, right? So you have all variety of music, but one meal that you're eating, you get to pick. Or would you have, anytime you listen to music, one song or let's say one album, and that's all you can listen to the rest of your life, and you have unlimited variety in your food? Which one would you pick?
So this is I joke around a lot, like don't take me so serious unless I say that I'm being serious. So that's how bad it is. But this is a serious statement. I'm actually like not practicing. I've been doing it for the longest time, but like, I don't know if you've heard like the carnivorous diet. So like carnivore diet. Mm-hmm. So I legitimately eat steaks every single day. So that to me is like, I'm already doing it. But I'm actually on a music fast right now. I haven't listened to music in 16 months.
Wow.
No, that was a joke. The first part.
I was going to
say. No, it's funny that you say album too, because like, I don't even think of albums anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
it's true.
As a kid, it was always about going to get like the CD to hear the new album. And now it's just like, I have Amazon Prime Radio and I just like download songs.
So what are you jamming out to right now when you work out?
Oh, when I work out? Well, I'm a big podcast guy. Like, obviously, I know you are too, but like I started listening to podcasts when I work out. So the science behind it is that while you are like exerting yourself physically, your like neurological pathways are opened and you actually have more, I don't know what like the simplistic terminology for this would be, but like you're more susceptible to hearing and then interpreting and then like allowing it to stick in your brain when you're exerting yourself physically. So as soon as I heard that, I was kind of like, okay, well, why am I listening to music during that time, right? Like I'm already a absolute genius when it comes to memorizing song lyrics. Like I should be memorizing some like scripture or some like facts or like just some like, Guinness Book of World Records stuff. So that way I know what I'm chasing after in the grand scheme of things. So, but as far as music goes, I'm a classic rock guy. I was A little sidebar story for you. Pops was a ball player. Had the privilege of kind of growing up in that environment, and that entailed a lot of like cross country road trips, right, with the fam. So like my earliest childhood memories were literally like, Pops putting in a Boston CD and just jamming out cross country, putting in the Eagles, Tom Petty, 38 Special, Grand Funk Railroad, like just throwing those guys in. I guess it wasn't a CD back then, right? It was the cassette. Like you put the little cassette thing in. Do you remember when the game changed and you were allowed to like put the cassette in, and then it came out to like an aux cord, and then you were able to put like the aux cord?
Oh my gosh,
that was like 2 years ago, right?
Well, and you're bringing to mind back in the day where you were a total punk if you didn't rewind the movie after you
the VHS, dude. Be Kind Rewind. Remember they had that on everything?
Oh man,
dude,
we're totally dating ourselves right now. By the way,
but, dude, that just like it flew by. I just feel like we were here as a society as far as like what we had technology wise, and then you fast forward like a decade later. And it was like, holy smokes, we have everything now. That's why, like, I have a theory, and I don't want to say it on the air, but I'm going to. I have a theory that we stole alien technology in the last, like, 25 years. We stole alien technology, and we started utilizing it for our technology. Because
well, let me ask you a question there. How did we steal it? If they were that much more advanced than us, how did that happen?
Okay, great question. My follow-up to that is maybe stealing wasn't the appropriate word. Maybe there was a crash-landed UFO that somehow, like, Independence Day, Will Smith coming out and seeing this UFO, and we just like took whatever was in it through our best scientists in the world and was like, figure this out. And then we just went off of that.
Well, not to be cliche, but I'm actually in New Mexico right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, that's where we're located. And
why was I thinking Nevada? Because you told me the other day in our
both of them are alien hotbeds. I mean, come on, either one would work in this conversation.
Dude.
I got the inside scoop, man. I got the inside scoop. There's so many UFOs out here.
All right, hit the unrecord button. Let's talk. The government's watching, man. Big Brother's listening right now, and we're about to someone's going to bust through our windows right now.
Yeah, and not only that, we're about to publish this like for everybody to listen to. So,
do we have to?
I know.
Yeah, what do you got on that hot take though? Like, I mean, in 20 years, we went from legitimately like a landline phone being the best thing since sliced bread to 20 years later, like smartphones with internet connectivity.
Well, you know what I'm fascinated about in this topic is the effect of digital devices on athletes and like the generations that are developing, that we don't really know full well like what those effects are totally going to be because it's so new. But as human,
give me an example. I want one of your examples.
So let's take social media for example.
Okay.
The ability to be like kind of in touch with and connected to so many more people than we ever used to be able to be in touch with. Yeah. Because I think about my growing up, for example, when I remember riding my bike to my buddy's house, then we would grab another buddy and we go ride, we'd ride bikes and we'd go fishing or we'd go dig holes or throw rocks at each other.
No, those were 100% like the things to do. 100%.
Yeah. And so I wasn't texting them, I wasn't DMing them. I wasn't Skyping them. I wasn't doing any of that stuff or anything like that. And I just remember having to memorize all my friends' phone numbers and leave voicemails at their houses.
Dude.
And you know what I'm talking about? So it's like you take a minute to like step back and think about that. And I'm not bagging on social media or digital devices. I think they're incredible, but I think we just haven't understood the impact that it could have on development, especially as an athlete. Like in relation to our audience here, I think about some of the guys that I know that don't sleep as much as they should because they're on their devices. And it's not like they're doing something bad. It's just that they may not be aware that the distraction there is keeping them from growing, getting stronger, getting more powerful, and those kind of things. So it's just an interesting thing to think about.
No, it's product of environment, like whatever environment. So I'm again, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm like a human optimization nerd, geek, like whatever you want to call it. So like putting into place certain things that are going to optimize like longevity, health, all of that stuff. And I'm like very, very passionate about this topic for a couple different reasons. Obviously, like the things that we don't see, right? Like you kind of mentioned, even dirty electricity, like going to sleep with like your Wi-Fi signal could, maybe outside looking in, you're like, oh, it's not doing anything for me. It's not hurting me or anything, but like in the grand scheme of things, right. We don't really know yet. And I think it's only going to get worse. And then that kind of, like you said, with the screen, like, having like blue light blocking glasses nowadays, or again, circadian rhythmicity, dude, like, whereas our ancestors, like we were essentially built to be running around the sun or controlling like that type of way of going about our life. And now instead of like kind of winding down when the sun goes down, a lot of people are like getting going, so a lot of people like get off of work at 5, sun goes down, 6, 7, depending on daylight savings or whatever. And then it's like, oh, I got to go to the gym. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to cook. And, but for me, like being a nerd, like I experiment, I try to go through like month phases of, okay, this month I'm going to focus on as soon as, 7 o'clock hits or 8 o'clock. The sun's been going down here. I don't know about where you are, but it's been going down at like 9 p.m. It's freaking crazy. So like whenever like that time sets, like I'll have like my app on my phone that tells me exactly when sunset is. And as soon as that hits, I'll experiment with like, okay, all the screens in my room, shut off, Wi-Fi unplugged, all the outlets unplugged. And then just like read a book. I'll try to, right. And dude, I'm telling you, man, like I just feel better. And I don't know if it's placebo, but even if it is placebo, like who cares, because you still feel better. So I don't know. I'm just like, I'm a nerd. And then, the other point I wanted to bring up in this conversation, and then we can maybe move on to like more important things. But, the fact that we know from, studying very successful in terms of like longevity cultures around the world, we know that the most successful ones, as far as like, again, longevity, so living for a long period of time, we know that those cultures walk everywhere, basically barefoot. They are in communication, like verbal communication with everyone in the village. They, again, like they talk to everybody. They walk to and from places. And just like those little things, I fear that as we progress as a society, we're going to get so connected with like, oh, hey, I'll just text you. Hey, I'll email you. And we don't physically have to like talk to another person. So therefore like our people skills are diminishing because we're not putting those into practice. And we're so good at like texting and emails and all this stuff that we lose sight on the simple, task of creating conversation and how that benefits and affects like your brain and the way you go about perceiving life in general, as far as like, the dopamine levels that get released in your brain when you have a legitimate face-to-face conversation with someone or all those little types of things. So again, I fear as we progress and we get more connected with internet and all these things and all these means to connect to people, instead of just conversating, that, that'll affect. We'll get to a place in like 100 years where we just don't know how to speak anymore.
Well, it's this such a great topic to go down a rabbit hole on.
No, it's bad.
Well, here's something crazy. I think you may have experienced something like this in your career, but I'm a very, very similar person in that I nerd out about human optimization and what I can do to be better, but also thinking about how things used to be versus how they are now, and like trying to figure out, okay, where do I fit in that as an athlete? Yeah. So I started reading a lot about barefoot training when I was a junior. Okay.
Oh.
So get this. I ran a 7.1. I'm a first baseman, 6'4", 245. First baseman.
Donkey.
Outfield. Yeah. Big dude, man. Big dude. I worked my tail off, right, to just get bigger, stronger, faster. And I was kind of like plateaued on my speed. I really wanted to drop my 60 time. That was a big thing for me. And so I started training barefoot.
Yeah.
And I worked into it. And of course, I did a ton of research before I started jumping in. I didn't just start going running barefoot, but worked into it, got more minimalist shoes, went barefoot as much as possible. And then I started running, and then I started sprinting barefoot, among other things. But this was one of the things that I started doing. And I noticed that whereas before when I would like step with a wet foot on concrete, you can see your footprint. I noticed that my foot went from like mostly flat to then a few months later, my arches were like way higher, like stronger. And I started to understand that my actual feet and ankles and knees started to feel stronger, better. And I ended up dropping my 60 time from a 7.1 down to a 6.78.
That's a huge difference.
Huge. And but my back squat went up. A lot of other things went up, but I felt a lot of it was due to me finding a more natural running slot by being barefoot and being in tune with the movement of my feet and my stride and everything, which I wouldn't have felt if I was in really restrictive shoes or cleats all the time.
Can I plug something real quick?
Yeah, plug something for sure.
Shameless plug. For those of you guys who listen to this and listen to this conversation, don't take it lightly, because there's so much truth behind this. And if you want to dive like fully into this and you want to say, okay, let's do some research, I encourage you guys, the first thing that you research is the Robbie Rowe Show podcast, episode 48 with Dr. Emily Splickle. She is a podiatrist, and dude, we spent like an hour talking, like just geeking out over barefoot training. So,
oh my gosh, dude, I'm going to link that in the show notes, because I've got an athlete now who's using orthotics, and you got some other things going on from a podiatrist. So and I was like, well, I don't know. I'm not qualified to talk about your foot health, but I can tell you what worked for me. And that was going barefoot.
Dude, it's,
that episode 48.
40. Yeah. I'll send that over to you, because I'm actually in the process of right now. Like, I have the iTunes link and all of that, but I'm in the process of like trying to get all of my previous episodes onto my website, so I can kind of like not host my podcast on my website, but just have a page for each website. So I can just send people, I can direct people to like the link, where instead like I have to send like, hey, here's the iTunes, here's the Spotify, here's the iHeartRadio, here's the Stitcher, like all of these other links, where, cause everyone listens on a different platform. So I'm in that process. As soon as we hop off here though, I'll create that landing page, and then I'll just send that over. Right to you.
Yeah. And I'll link that. That'd be awesome.
It was a fantastic episode, dude. So she actually sent me, I still use them too. She has a company. What is her company called? Now I'm going to forget. I think it's, Nabosa. Yeah. Nabosa. No, I don't even know how to say it. Nabosotechnology.com. But she sent me these orthotics that it manipulates like kind of like how you would feel in a barefoot setting. So I threw them in my shoes, and it's, dude, it's crazy. Like the technology that she incorporated into just creating these orthotic, like it's fascinating. I literally, the shoes that they're in, like I just wear them all the time if I have to wear shoes. But yeah, we can geek out about that freaking all day. But that's fantastic. Your 60 time, dude, that was a huge, because you don't realize like all those little muscles that you're activating, and how many muscles that are in your foot that you don't have to activate when you have compensation from your shoe. So
yeah. Well, and it's led me to think, okay, you know what I need to get done is we have this sick barn gym out here in New Mexico. I mean, it's an amazing setup. And we have land around it. I'm gonna make a sand pit, so my guys, barefoot plyos and stuff. And I think that's going to be so impactful for these young developing athletes. I mean, here's the thing, right? You would agree with me here, because I had a kid DM me. When was it? It was a few days ago. But hey, what's my upside, right? Where I think a lot of kids think that when they're 17, like that's it. They're not going to progress anymore. Man, I was 24, 25 when I dropped my 60 time like that. So talk about, from your perspective as a pitcher, let's talk about throwing velocity maybe a little bit.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So some guys may think that, okay, I'm throwing 83 right now. Can I get the ability to throw harder? And what would you say about that sort of concept?
Well, I think I say the only thing that I can say is, and that's referring to personal experience, dude, is like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to throwing velocity, like, yeah, I was a pretty high pick in the draft. So like I threw fairly hard at a high school, like 18, but dude, I went through so many velocity fluctuations throughout my career. And it wasn't until like the 2015 season, like mid-season, that I ended up throwing my hardest, and I was 24, and I literally in one off season I got released in 2014. I was throwing 85. Like I was mind effed. I didn't know what I was doing. I literally had outings where I felt like I was throwing left-handed because you know how baseball can be, you know how throwing a baseball can be. Sometimes the simplistic nature of it gets so complex and that gets into your brain and you just lose sight on how the frick to do it. And so I went from 85, got released, to fast forward. So that would have been August, fast forward to, okay, say like under a year. So say 10 months later, I was throwing 99. So for me, personal experience says, dude, first off, you never know it's going to click. You never know what is that sweet spot for you. What is the training protocol that's going to get you to maximize your potential? What is the mindset that's going to get you to maximize your potential? What is the pregame routine or the post-recovery protocols? What is it going to be for you and your arm that are going to allow you to maximize what your body can do? And that's the beauty of this game, man, because look at a guy like Charlie Morton. I just made a post on him yesterday. Like, yeah, he was a guy that always had electric stuff, but dude, he was 34 and went from throwing 92 to averaging like top 5 starting fastball velocities, like 97. And it was like, cause his thing's great. He's such a good dude. He's so funny. He goes, yeah, my thing was like, maybe, credit it to my training protocols varying a little bit, but honestly, I went from going out and pitching to going out and just trying to throw hard. And dude, it's so funny when you think about it like that, because I think legitimately that's all I did. Like people kind of ask me all the time, like, yo, what drills did you do? Right. Everyone wants the next drill. What drills did you do? What was your routine? And dude, I went from thinking I had to put the ball exactly where I wanted it every single pitch, or else there was going to be extravagant consequence, to literally like, I'm going to sit and throw this ball as hard as I freaking can. See what happens. But that breaking that intent barrier, I think we live in a culture where pitching lessons are a huge thing, and we're kind of we're molding these kids to a point of having to be in X position at Y landing, or at this and that point you have to be here. And I fall guilty of this sometimes too, because I know what efficient, biomechanics is. But at the same time, like, we lose sight on what the biggest contributing factor of it all is. And that's athleticism. And, and I think we get a bad rep as pitchers because everyone's like, oh, we're not athletic. Dude, throwing a baseball with body parts going everywhere and controlled chaos and an arm speed, all that stuff, that's the most athletic movement, arguably, you can have in life. So yeah, dude, I think there's a huge mental thing to it, because at first, like, you have to believe that you can. That's why I tell people all the time, and it's funny, I don't mean to sound like a loser or mean or rude or anything, but like, you have to throw hard. You have to throw hard. You have to believe you can throw hard, because when I was struggling throwing 85, I legitimately just thought, I throw 85 now, like, better find a new way to deceive hitters. And then finally, like that off season, I was like, dude, I threw 94 out of high school, 95. Like, why didn't I grow since then? You know, and I looked at the big picture and I was like, okay, well, I started thinking a lot about mechanics, and I started thinking a lot about pleasing people, and I started thinking about being a robot and pitching instead of throwing. So I took those factors away, and dude, I just threw. You know, I believe that I had more in me. I still believe I have more in me. You know, and I freaking can throw 100. But like, gosh, I read a fascinating article on Jordan Hicks the other day, and it's so great. I play with Jordan, and it's just, it speaks volumes to like why he is going to be, and I mean, he is good right now, but he's going to be even better, is because like he doesn't even have a subconscious thought in his mind that says he can't throw like 150 miles an hour. He just doesn't. And his article was like, yeah, I threw 100. And then I was like, I want to throw 101. And then I threw 101. I want to throw 102. And it was like, dude, go back to that. Literally like our first 5 minutes of this conversation, I included the word like growth mindset. And dude, I believe personally, like it goes into velocity too. You know, you got to believe that you can before you do it.
Well, so. Yeah. I mean, there's carryover to hitting there too, for all the hitters who are listening to this. So many nuggets in what Robbie just laid out, right? Because as an athlete, you got to trust that the work you put in the gym and in your drills is going to manifest as an athlete on the field when you get out of the way mentally. Mm-hmm. You just you got to let it flow.
So much harder than it is.
It is so hard, especially when your coaches are giving you mechanical cues from the dugout. And that's a big thing that just, it's so hard for me to see when I watch young athletes because I know that is pulling them out of the state of intent, the state of violence of action that they need to have to throw or hit a baseball as hard as possible, and to actually be accurate in their movements. They can't think. That you just cannot think about it. It's got to be just go, right? Just throw, hit. I mean, it's got to be so simple and so pure as an athlete for that to happen. And it is really hard for youth athletes, I think, to college and professional too, right? To get over the mechanics of what's going on and get into the just the movement of it. Like you said earlier, the chi, the flow, the zone. I mean,
well, that's why we have to be purposeful in our training, right? So, yes. So our training is designed for us to incorporate our motion memory, or some call it muscle memory. Like I call it motion because you're motioning, but that's what it's designed for. And again, this is one of those things that's easy to say and hard to do, but you have to get into a position where you're feeling your body through time and space in your training. And develop a few personal cues that can work for you depending on, maybe the game speeds up or you're missing consecutively, or the ball is just feeling differently. Yeah. Like those are the types where you can incorporate, some cues to utilize when things are kind of going haywire to get back in the flow. But you utilize your training for that, right? So be mindful of your body, be aware of your body, be aware of positioning in your training, maximize that, and then get into a habit or a point or whatever you want to call it. When a dude steps in the box and the umpire says, let's fudge and go, like, dude, compete, right? Like you, the only thing you need to worry about in that sense, or when the lights are on and there's a dude in the box trying to beat you, is what do you got to do to beat him? And there shouldn't, and as soon as we start thinking, okay, arm out on time, pressure into the earth, get separated, get my hand up, all of these things in competition, you are putting, it's like, the analogy that I would use was like, remember when we learned how to drive, we had driver's ed, and like they had a brake pedal on their side. It's like you have a guy in your car that has his foot on the brake while you're trying to pitch at max intensity because of your thought process being like mechanical or something else. So as soon as we can get to a point in our career, and dude, I know I say this and I'm making it sound so freaking easy. I spent first 5 years, sprinkled in some better years in there, but first 5 or 6 years of my professional career, legitimately being that guy. I was the poster child for brake pedal approach. and it was because, I can sit here and play the blame game, but at the end of the day, I took responsibility and said, well, my mindset was stupid. Should have never even thought that. I was 88th overall pick. I'm not trying to say that to be cocky, but it was like I was good. And now all of a sudden I totally changed my mindset. I went from being a high school kid that every time I towed it up, I was like, okay, no one here is going to touch me today. Yeah, cocky. Who cares? You have to be. And then I went from being the 18, 19-year-old kid in professional ball, 20, 21, 22-year-old kid in professional ball, thinking, okay, I have to stay tall on my backside. I have to push off the rubber. I have to separate on time. And I was like, what am I doing? And like back to that stupid analogy I made was like, every time I went out, like I had 60% on the gas and 40% on the brakes. And then as soon as I got to that point in my career, it was like, okay, whatever, dude. There's that book out there, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F, and really like diving into the concept of F it. It's literally like what it was for me. I went out there like 2015. That was my best year, probably, much in large part to having already been released, having already been like the complete bust, failure, call it what you want, and still being able to like at the end of my day going, wow, I failed over and over again. I been labeled a bust, but I still have breath in my lungs. Like if that's the worst possible thing that could happen, like I'm doing pretty good for myself, So I took that approach, man, and was just like, F it. Like, again, I'm going to throw as hard as I can. At least if I go out, like I'm going to go out on my note, and that kind of just took my foot off the gas, took my foot off the brake and went 110% on the gas and was like, let's go.
I mean, I love that you share that. And again, for those listening, some of the questions that came to me before this podcast from our audience were, how can you bounce back when you're in competition and also after you fail? Like if you give up, the lead, or you get the loss, or you kind of choke in a big situation as a hitter, you've got some time to think about that. How do you bounce back from that? So that's a big question that was asked prior to this podcast. Another one is, what are some of your go-to words when you're competing? So it's interesting because like everything that you just shared, Robbie, deals with these questions that athletes have about failure, being relentlessly optimistic and competitive, but also detaching from what other people think about you, which you said is like, you just don't care, chip on your shoulder, go out, compete, and who cares what other people think about you? If you're competing with intensity, I mean, that's the type of athlete that's going to lead a team. That's the type of athlete that other players want to play with. And I think that's a really, really important thing for developing athletes and athletes who've been competing for a while to always remember. I think of a couple movies that would be well worth the watch on a bus ride. And one of them is Gladiator, and another one is
Are You Not Entertained?
Exactly. I mean, so Ip Man is this. I don't know if you're into kung fu movies, but Ip Man, IP Man, is incredible movie. And I think
I
about
watched that a long time ago, man.
Yeah, I mean, these fighting scenes, it's kind of what you're describing as being a pitcher or hitter. When you step in the box, when you step up on the mound, I mean, you're in the ring, right? You're a gladiator. You're not there to think about if your sword is at 45 degrees and your shield is placed, correctly in front of you, right? You're attack mode. You're just straight up attacking. And that, to me, like, you go watch that movie, and that like encompasses everything you just talked about with that. So it's pretty cool stuff,
dude. I mean, when it comes to, all right, so a couple things. One, shameless plug again. I'll send you the link to this. Bounce Back from Failure. I did a blog post on it.
Nice.
So therobbyroshow.com/bounce back. And it's a blog for the millennials out there. There's not text. Okay. I know how to tailor my blogs to you guys now. So I write like a little text and then I do a video. So for me, the biggest identification process that I had to go through in my career was just that. So was understanding what is my foundation, right? So what is my foundation for this game of baseball, and understanding that I am at my absolute best when I'm playing this game by having fun, and that was something that was like, that's just me, anytime. I mean, like I try to produce as much joy as possible in my life. But when I'm when I'm in between the lines, man, like that's just fun, and it brings back so many childhood memories of just good times and remembering, like, again, going back to your story of like riding your bike. For me, it was, getting the boys together, riding. I'm getting goosebumps. Holy crap. I'm getting the boys together, like riding the bike up to the park, Sandlot, whatever you want to call it. Summertime, man, you just get up there, freaking 8 a.m., crack of dawn. You just get up there. You got a bucket of balls. You got bats. You got a couple, maybe like 7, 8 of us say, hey, right field's closed. If you hit it over there, it's an automatic out. Pitcher's hand. Remember what pitcher's hand was? The pitcher caught it before you hit the base, like you're out. Yep. That was it for me, and I think my progression and my journey in professional ball was so much of like, I got that experience of, holy crap, this is a business. Like, I need to produce or I'm not going to get to the point where I want to get to. And so then my mindset shifted from, having fun, enjoying this game and being a kid to like, crap, I got to produce. And now I'm putting more internal pressure on myself in a world of so much external pressure, like, holy smokes, what the heck? And then all of a sudden, again, man, going back to that year where I got released and I got my second opportunity with St. Louis. And it was like, okay, my foundation is love. Like, I love this game and this game is fun, So now that I built this foundation on something so much more sturdy than, I just do it for fame, or I just do it for popularity, or I just do it for money. My foundation now is just freaking built on rocks, man, and having that, I talk about that in the blog, or in the vlog, I guess, video blog, just cause I love looking at myself. But I talk about that, how like, failing for me at an early point in my career was so hard because my identity was wrapped in the game. So whenever my results fluctuated, my identity fluctuated, and I was a different person because of my results in a game. And, when I kind of I took a step back and was like, okay, this game is a game. I know it's so much easier to say than do. Trust me, I've been there. And just going, okay, I just love this game, and I'm going to do and try my hardest. I'm going to work my hardest. I'm going to control everything that I can control, and I'm not going to worry about the things that I can't control. As soon as that ball leaves my fingers, man, trust that I put in the amount of work that was necessary for me to have success, and trust that, I've treated people the right way. And at the end of the day, I look in the mirror and I gave up 9 and 1 1/3, but I controlled all the variables and I did what I could do. I can freaking sleep much better that night. So I know I'm kind of going off on a rant and a bunch of different types of tangents here, but for me earlier on, accepting that failure was hard. I did another blog post. I'll send you that link too, but I forget what it was called. This was a written blog post, so for the millennials out there, I apologize. But this was 2011. This blog was about me going through the process of failure, having never yet failed. Right. So again, me being in high school, and I apologize for talking about myself all the time. I hate to do it, but high school, I never failed, man. Baseball, basketball, like I was always successful really at anything I did. And then 2011 came and smokes, man. Like I just failed and I did not know how to respond. I did not know what to do. It was the replacements, quicksand. The harder I tried, the deeper and deeper I sank. And it was frustrating, right? Because you're like, what the heck? I'm working hard. I'm working harder than everyone on this team, but my results aren't showing. So that blog post, again, I'll link that to you if those listening want want to read into that. It's a tough time, but when it comes to bouncing back, understand and really identify the foundation for why you play this game. And I think that will help because everyone's process is going to be a little bit differently. Everyone's foundation is going to be different, but I think we can always kind of revert back to that foundation. So for me, again, going back to the love, sometimes I look at this game as like a business, and I have to, and then I start looking at it like, okay, Robbie, remember my foundation. Like, oh yeah, this game's fun. I love this game. Okay. Now my mindset changed from have to get to. I get to play this game, man. Like I get to go out there and I get to compete. It gives me a really good outlet to showcase my stupid competitive nature, and, yeah, man, when it comes to failure, it's so funny, dude. Like I did an IGTV on this morning. I'll probably produce it right after we get off this call, but this is like, what do I have written down? Fear. All right. So what is fear? So I can take the cliche approach and quote Michael Jordan saying it's an illusion and it's not real. And I could be 100% right. But at the same time, like it's one of those things that I think no matter who we are, we're always going to somewhat deal with that as athletes or even as just human beings in general, because we have expectation, right? And as human beings, as much as we sit here and we can say like, hey, don't worry about other people's perception, I think we're always going to have that little bit in us, maybe even just subconsciously, that does worry about others' perceptions, right? Because we do want to be accepted. We do want to fit in. We do want to be liked. And, and I really dive pretty deep into this the vlog that I did because, I dealt with that on a professional level, and it was hard, man, because my thing was that I'm a people pleaser. I want to do everything and anything to please those around me. Like I want to make sure that everyone's like happy and everyone likes me. And so what that did was that, again, I was trying so hard to do that I lost sight on who I was and what I did well. And that brought about more like internal nervousness and internal anxiety because of the amount of internal pressure that I had. So yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things, right, where we can sit here and we can talk about it all day, but everyone's process of putting that into action is going to be different. And I can't encourage people enough to just ask those questions for themselves, So ask the question of like, what is my biggest fear when I toe it up? What is my biggest fear when I get in the box? What is my worst possible outcome in the next minute 30 of my at bat? If I strike out, is that the worst thing? Potentially. Okay. Say the worst. I mean, you can attest to this as a hitter. The worst outcome is to strike out, and I guess you can take it the next step saying you strike out looking like an idiot because like you had no chance, right? If that's your worst possible outcome, like, is that so bad, in the grand scheme of life? So for me, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what's so powerful about what you're sharing is it's what you're, at least for me, what I'm feeling from this and learning from this is that our state of being directly impacts how we respond to opposition and success, our state as a human being. And whether it's a state of selfishness or of gratitude and giving, and that's kind of getting a little bit deeper into just general life. But with regards to the game, how can you and I and everybody listening to this, how can we approach the game with ultimate gratitude every single day, right? And if you do that, right, how can you ultimately, you're going to be a success. The game's always going to end for all of us in some way or another. We're not going to be playing, at some point. But if you can look back on it, man, and say that I was grateful in my approach every day and I gave my teammates, to my team, and those that helped me get where I got, man, I mean, that's what makes it meaningful, right?
Well, I think it starts with gratitude, right? I think it starts with gratitude because, again, going back to that shift in my mindset where it was have to get to. So, to elaborate is like, we oftentimes think of things or activities that we have to do, right? We have to go to practice.
Mm-hmm.
We have to throw a bullpen today. We have to take the bus 10 hours, right? So I think it starts with gratitude to shift the mindset in that regard, right? So waking up, I told you, like, I have a morning routine, right? I'm very routinist. And like, that's, I got to include my 5-10 minutes of gratitude time, man, because now my outlook on, now my perception, my personal perception on my life now has a head start on each and every day, because now I get to do what I want. Right. So even just, me creating the brand that I have in the last, year and change, like, there's been a lot of days, man, where it's like, holy smokes, I have to write 4 blogs. I have to do 2 podcast recordings. I have to do 6 Instagram posts. And I was like, wait a second, like, it's not right. Like, I get to do that. I get to make an impact. I get to instruct. I get to teach. I get to have an audience. Right. So I think, again, man, like, you're hitting it on the head, dude. It starts with gratitude to shift our mindset from have to get to. And then it's controlling the controllables at that point, right? So when you shift your mindset from have to get to, now you get to work out. You get to wake up at 4 a.m. and do beach runs. You get to wake up at the stupid hours of the morning to go train. You get to do all of these things that outside looking in is an absolute grind. But we all know that it's not a grind if you love it. Yep. So once you do that, it goes back to controlling the controllables to the point where, this is in the vlog I did, where it's like, looking at yourself in the mirror at the end of each day, ask yourself a series of questions that you had 100% control over: work, output, respect, all of these things. And you check off all those boxes. I guarantee you that your perception on the sport or the perception on your life is going to be greater, and you're going to start seeing success, because now, we can sit here and talk and we can complicate it all we want, but at the end of the day, man, in literally like the most simplistic fashion, there's tons of variables to success, life, baseball, whatever, tons. And we can make it as difficult as possible, but I think by doing that, we lose sight on the opportunities of control that we actually do have. Right. So if we focus on those instead of the things that we don't have control over, right, it goes like hand in hand with, as a pitcher or even as a hitter, baseball player, whatever, umpire doesn't give you a call. Wasn't in our control. Get over it. But if you don't get over it, you're probably going to, not execute 3 or 4 pitches, or you're probably not going to get a hit that at bat because you're so wrapped up around the thing that you couldn't control.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. And for everybody listening, guys, lock that, what Robbie just said, lock that in your mind and apply what he just talked about, because it'll serve you in the game right now, today, but it'll also serve you throughout your life following baseball. Just everything about your life can be improved by what Robbie just shared with you. I mean, that's a massive truth right there, brother. I mean, that's amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, that's what I love about baseball, man. It's like the closest thing we have to life.
Yeah, it's like this.
Sometimes in life, like in the game of baseball, right, we could sit here and we can work as hard as we can. We work harder than every one of our teammates, and we still fail. Like, that's life sometimes, man. You work as hard as you can for a promotion. You work as hard as you can, for, something in this life. And you don't always get it. It's not guaranteed, but that's what makes it beautiful.
Yep. Well, and then the things that you learn in that process of failure lead to successes. And it's so long as you don't quit. And that's the thing.
Well, it leads you to understand yourself better. And I think understanding yourself better is stepping stones to success.
Exactly. And that's funny, because that's another question that was given to us, which was, how do you define success as a baseball player? And
multiple levels.
Right. But outcomes are the way that the world defines us as a baseball player, our stats. But ultimately we like at the core level can't control certain things about those numbers, right? you might dot up a pitch. It's totally just perfect pitch. And the hitter hits it. You might make solid contact and it goes straight to the right fielder.
Mm-hmm.
Did you fail? Or how do you define that?
Well, yeah, I think everyone's perception of success has to be, or it doesn't have to be, but it's going to be different. And like you said, I think the world is going to judge us, right? No matter what we do, who we are, what we come from, we're going to get judged. Doesn't mean we have to change. We don't have to mold our patterns to what the world wants to see. And again, I think that goes back to why did I fear, early in my career? Because I worried a lot about others' perception. Mm-hmm. So I was molding to that type, I guess, which got me totally out of my element, right? And it got me totally out of the things that I did well and the things that I identified with as doing well. So as soon as I kind of hit that point in my career where I started, some will call it maturing, but I just call it realization. And when I got to that point, man, as I started less, again, this is one of those things, and I apologize for the listeners because I've been there and I know how easy it sounds and I know how hard it is to put into action. But, we have to do our due diligence to put it out there, and, for me, it was getting a different perspective of success. And almost like you said, man, at the core, at the center of it, of your ERA, there's things that are out of your control. All right. Mm-hmm. So instead of looking at it like, okay, here's the back of my baseball card. Holy smokes, I suck. I'm looking at it like, dude, I was out there, and I look at success as, did I work hard? Did I work smart? Did I do the necessary things to put myself in the best possible situation to have quote unquote success? Did I skip any practices? Did I skip any training days? Did I skip film sessions? No. Wow, that's pretty good. Did I treat teammates with respect? Did I treat my coaches with respect? Am I well liked off the field? Am I a good human being? I think those are, again, I know it's a baseball centered question, but in terms of life too, at the end of the day, I'm going to sleep better and I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and I'm going to be able to accept my 9 ERA if I did those things. And I started, like I said, I started perceiving success as if it were the things that I could control rather than my ERA, which sometimes can be skewed. Mm-hmm. And I know it's funny too, because this is another rabbit hole we can dive down to, as far as 2019 data analytics and sabermetrics. We have FIP, we have WOBA, we have expected WOBA, we have all these stats that says, nope, these are things that are absolutely within your control. Well, we're not talking about those, right? I think that's a whole nother topic too, is as a player, it's easy to get caught up in your numbers, right? We almost get defined. We almost get defined by the back of the baseball card. We almost get defined by our baseball reference page, and maybe that could be a positive if you're hitting 350 and you got 27 pumps at the All-Star break. That's great. But if you're a guy like me, right? So again, I hate to talk about myself over and over again, but if you're a guy like me and you look at the back of my baseball card, you look at the culmination of 9 minor league seasons, you're like, this guy friggin' failed. This guy was an absolute failure at the game of baseball, right? And that's fine, because I know that the world is misguided, and I know that the world weighs in on you as far as who you should identify as, or what to identify as, or what to identify in. But again, man, my perception of success and failure isn't numbers. It's a mindset of giving myself the best opportunity to produce and giving myself the best opportunity to be the very best version of myself. And if I did that, each and every day, and I was consistent, then I succeeded, man. Because I'm not going to dwell on that. A sidebar to rest in peace, Bill Buckner. The world sees him as a failure because of one play. And I'm sure maybe he went through periods of his life. Like, I mean, how could you not of just depression because of one play, but he was a fantastic baseball player. I've heard he was a fantastic teammate. So when he perceives his journey in baseball, did he fail because of like one player? Did he fail because of stats? Did he fail because of, not doing something on the field? Like, it's just so easy to get wrapped up in that. And I know, again, it's so easy to sit here and say, just don't, but it's another thing to put into action, but I can't encourage you guys enough, for those of you who are grinding this out, listening still, to start identifying as, what do you look at your success, and tailor it to things that you can control, because that's going to, and it's going to be, again, as far as like well-being as a human being, we're going to be better off with defining those types of successes or failures with things that you can control, because you can control them. You know what I mean? Things that are out of your hand are a lot tougher to swallow. Failure or success. Trust me, man, I've spent many nights in hotel rooms on the road, having just gave up 7 earnings in 1 inning, not being able to sleep because my identity was in my stats. My identity was in, what I was doing on the field.
Man, I mean, that's as far as like I think like a nailing home point from this conversation. That's huge, because it's you as an athlete taking ownership of your success, and you defining what you define as success based on controllables, and letting everything else go. And then you're free, right? As an athlete, you're free to go out and to enjoy the game. You freed yourself from the bondage of the opinions and perceptions of other people who don't know you and who are judging you based off of a number. And you're much more than that as an athlete. You're much, much more than that. And so, I think about, I just think that's just so, I wish I would have known that going into college baseball or even high school baseball, because as a younger athlete coming up through the ranks, it's so you might have massive success in high school if you're a great athlete, but a lot of kids out there are struggling, man, to get playing time and to get on the team, even like for freshman to junior to varsity, and then varsity, looking at colleges you want to play at and all that kind of stuff. You can get really wrapped up in how you appear statistically to other people, but that doesn't serve us at all. And I think if you think about it, some of the like times when I was hottest as a hitter, I had no clue what my batting average was. I didn't know.
You didn't care.
I didn't care. I was just like, man, I'm feeling good. I'm just hitting the baseball, and you might have times like that in your career too. I know some of my friends express the same thing. It's what it's all about. And so the way you get there is by, like what Robbie said, it's a lot easier said than done, but be attentive to and active in discovering your success and actually like practicing what it means to be successful to you. And that's how you're going to get there. I mean, we can't give you a magic bullet. We can't give you a formula. We can't craft any amount of like ebook or layout or download or some free resource that we could give you that's going to get you there. Yeah, those will help you, but it's got to come from you. You got to own it. And that's the only way you're really going to get there, So
fantastic. Well, going back to what you said, as far as I wish I knew this in high school or college, dude, the best part of it is like perception, right? Like, it now though. Now you get to reach an audience, because of what you went through. Like, I sit here almost daily because I'm a human being, right? Like, sit here. I have a podcast in which I try to highlight positivity, and I try to highlight all the good things that I do. And again, going back to that social media conversation, social media can be ruthless in the terms of we perceive everyone's life to be glamorous, and we perceive other people's relationships to be perfect, and ours isn't. So then we kind of have this change in mindset. But, like at the end of the day, man, I'm a human being too. I struggle every single day with like, gosh darn it. Like I was feeling good last year and my freaking arm blew out. That sucks, and I could sit here and be depressed in the fact that, I don't get to play baseball all of 2019 because of rehab and being in surgery and all that stuff. But I think the most beautiful thing in being a human being is like we have the complete control of our own perception. And if I were to perceive that horrific event of my arm blowing into pieces as completely negative and me missing all that time, then my life would be tragic. Like it would be depressive, and instead I've learned through the course of my journey that I have complete control of my perception. So instead of perceiving that event to be only negative, I try to look at again, I'm stupid optimist, and I perceived it as, well, I have all this time now to dive into a brand. I have all this time on my hands now to see what I can create out of it. And I think for you, like what you said about not knowing all this stuff in high school or college, like look at the perception of, well, shoot, man, like now I do know it. Now I have an ability to reach others who were in the same position as me in high school, and find joy in that, because that's meaningful, and that's kind of the same. That's the same like foundation that I've created. I've been through a weird journey in this game of baseball, and I feel a sense of responsibility to make that like public knowledge, to make that known, so other individuals who potentially are going through some of the things that I went through, or are on the verge of going through some of those things that I went through, like now they have an outlet to go, oh, that makes sense. Now I'm better equipped to handle my journey. Now I'm better equipped to take head on this game. Because like, man, like this game is freaking ruthless. Life is ruthless.
It really is. Well, I mean, and I appreciate you sharing that. The mission of this podcast and what we're doing, I think aligns really well with what you're doing, in your sphere. And it is this, it's how can baseball players like us who don't have all the connections or resources, facilities, or who aren't naturally big, strong, fast, or powerful, how can we, or I would add to that, how can like people who have hit some serious roadblocks and failures, like blowing out your arm? The question that we want to answer here is how can we, who have been through those things, who are in those situations, train, eat, practice, perform, and most importantly, live to play the game at a high level and to love it. And that's what this is all about. And so what you've shared today, Robbie, is lined up with all that perfectly. And I super grateful that you took time out of your busy schedule to hop on and chat. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with the audience. And just in conclusion, man, where can we find you? And this is your opportunity to.
Oh, dude, where can you not find me?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. So definitely, Instagram is a place that I would push everybody to go follow Robbie on. His content there is amazing. But tell us where we can find you, and we'll wrap it up, man.
Yeah, dude. First of all, dude, thank you so much, man, for this opportunity to shed light on topics that society, baseball community sometimes don't shed light on, because we're so focused on like the successes, and those feel good stories that we lose sight on, like it's not always sunshine and rainbows, right? Quote the Rocky Balboa movie. So thank you for allowing me to come on here and talk for too long probably and share that. But as far as where you can find me, yeah, like Instagram's probably I'm most active. Robbie Row 12, Robbie with a Y, ROBBY, ROW 12. Twitter, I try to be active, but Twitter is ruthless, man. There's a lot of people on Twitter that just think discrimination is key. So I don't know, but Twitter, I actually try to post a lot of like highlights on Twitter because it's an easy outlet for me to post highlights on. So you can find me there, Robbie Rowe _12. So ROBBYROW_. That's shift _12. And then Facebook, search Robbie Rowland. I got a business page on there that I have no idea what I'm doing, so that's fantastic. My website, this is my baby. My website, I'm very prideful when it comes to my website because I know what it started from and I know where it is now, and I know where it can be. For those of you guys, check that out, therobbierowshow.com. Again, Robbie with a Y. Got a couple different services on there. Got all my blogs. Again, trying to do my podcast on there. Content library. Man, everything. For me as a ball player, like everything you would need to better equip yourself for success moving forward in a baseball career, I try to put on that website. So therobbierowshow.com. I'm trying not to be cocky with that The Robbie Rowe Show thing. It just sounded right, so I went with it. And that's also the name of my podcast, so The Robbie Rowe Show. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Oh, I guess you can find me on YouTube, Robbie Rowland. Post stuff there too. Oh man. So yeah, I'm also on MySpace and dude, I don't know what I'm like. I'm losing my, I don't think my brain works after
I'm the same way. Like, it's time to go eat, man.
I need to go do some like push-ups or do something. But talk about aliens. Yeah, like can we have another segment now where we talk about not performance-based things? Oh man, yeah. But again, dude, in all seriousness, I really appreciate you, man. Like, and what you're doing and what you're standing for, and what your foundation is, and you know, can't stress enough, man. I know you can attest to this too, is like, start asking why behind everything you do. Have a purpose, have an understanding of why you do what you do. You know, sometimes I get lost as well, and I'm sitting on Instagram scrolling for God knows how long. I'll be like, why am I doing this? Why is this benefiting me? Like, no, like do something else. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I encourage you guys listening, you know, start understanding the why. Why do you play baseball? You know, why do you do this? Why do you do that? I think those are all good questions that we can ask ourselves on a daily basis. So dude, sorry, I'll stop rambling. Thank you for having me on this show, man. I love what you're doing.
Likewise, guys, go follow Robbie. Incredible value. And it's like, blows my mind how much value you offer just for free. And I know that you have services as well. So those can all be found on the platforms that we talked about. And I encourage everybody listening to go check them out, and just keep crushing it, Robbie. You're a great example to all of us, and we wish you the best in your journey.
Always, dude. Thanks again, man. I appreciate you.
Talk soon.
See ya. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to the Robbie Rowe Show, episode 82. Like I said, the show notes for this episode can be found at therobbierowshow.com/082. So be sure to go check that out. And if you have yet to subscribe to this podcast, be sure to do so, because I'm trying to get back on the old podcast game, trying to reach more individuals. You know, the good. All right, guys. Thank you again. Much love. And we shall talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day. God bless, guys. See ya.